great man. Nana Opoku Entry Kweku Ababu the first. Now I'll tell you what those names mean. Nana, as you know, is a term for a chief, someone who is in chieftaincy, whether it's a queen mother or a Safuhini, which we call warrior chief, or a king. He's Nana, he or she. And when we first came, or when I first came to Ghana, and it was like, this truly restored, not just restored my faith, but reaffirmed for me that there was a power far greater than anything that we could imagine if we just allow ourselves to be taken over. And as I said, I'm not a religious woman. I'm a spiritual person, okay? I don't believe in, and that's your choice to believe in what you believe in. But when something works for you, that's where you go, okay? And so we come from a higher power. And when I came here in 1987, two fishermen by the name of Matthew and John came to my hotel and invited me to their village. Well, I'd never been to Africa before, and why? What the hell? Let me go to the village, okay? That's what I'm here for. So we walked down the road. There was nothing there, one house and an abandoned building. And I stopped in the abandoned building, and there was an elder. And he said that he was there watching the property. And I'm like, well, what's he watching? There ain't no windows. There's a half-built house. You can't have no bed. You're sleeping on a mat. But he said that was his job. So far be it for me. Walked next door, beautiful piece of property. So, you know, sometimes, you know, we play with ourselves. We play games. You know, we talk to ourselves. You know, and I talk to myself a lot. You know, my grandmother said when you start answering yourself is when you have a problem. But I even answer myself sometimes, you know. So I'm out there looking into the ocean, beautiful piece of property, people on the rocks, distance, Elmina Castle Dungeons. So I said, you know one thing? God, Goddess, Buddha, Jesus, ancestors, whoever's listening, I want this. I want to walk out my door every day for the rest of my life, and I want to see that Elmina Castle Dungeons in the distance. Because you know, in America, we had Paul Revere. He was riding and said, the British are coming, the British are coming. I said, well, I want to be the one that stands over here and say, yeah, the white folks is back. Everybody run for the hills. I want that to be my job. So if you give me this, I will be an obedient servant. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. But I want to have this. So I beg of you. Mepaucho. And mepaucho means I beg, please. So we left there, we went down to the village, had a really nice day, playing with the children, met all the people in the village, did whatever I did, went to the castle dungeons. That's another story for another time. Experience though, the bottom line was that the experience in there made a change in me. And when I came out of the dungeons, I knew that I would never be the same person again. So sure enough, there's 16 of us. I rushed back to America, and we went through some stuff. Went back to America, told my husband what a good time I had. Didn't tell him, just told him, oh, the place was beautiful, this, that, and other thing. Didn't think, you know, like to tell him about Matthew and John and stuff like that, just that God was wonderful. I said, so you need to go. He said, where am I going? I don't know nobody in Ghana. I said, don't worry, I know somebody in Ghana. I'm going to call them and tell them that you're coming, and then you go to Ghana. He kept saying he wasn't going. I said, well, I'm giving you a birthday present. I'm buying you a ticket, and you're going to go. He did. Stayed for a month. And when he came home, being the kind of man he was, he didn't think his wife had fallen out of her treehouse like my kids. My kids think I fell out of a treehouse, both of us. So we figured it out. He said, no, baby, we can go to Africa and we're going to make this work. He's a retired New York City firefighter. So we went back and forth a couple of years. Then one day he comes in and tells me, said, you know, he'd been out visiting somewhere. And he was a Hebrew Israelite. So the seventh day you should rest. So he went somewhere to study. He comes in one day and he said, yo, baby, these people want me to be a chief. And I'm like, a what? A chief? I said, what you know about being a chief? An African chief? He said, yeah, they want me to be the chief. I said, well, why do they want to make you the chief? What did you do? He said, I didn't do anything. I just offered, as he would always do, I offered to help them get electricity for their village because they don't have no lights. So I said, okay, no problem. So he decided, you know, we had some arrangement with our crew that we came with, but the spirit was on him so strong, he said, well, I'm going to meditate on it, and whatever the spirit gives me utterance is what I'm going to do. So sure enough, he said, I'm taking it. I said, cool, see you. I got to go back to America because we had a travel agency, and in that agency was a clerk who was minding her business. I said, so I can't stay, but find me some land. Don't come out of Africa without finding me some land. And I don't want to live in town. I want to live on the ocean, not up in the mountain, looking at the water, not on the beach, but you know, kind of high up. So I want to smell it, hear it, walk to it. He said, don't worry about it, baby. I got this. So sure enough, when he came home, he said, I found you some land, baby. I said, really? For real? He said, yeah, right there on the ocean. Wonderful. We come to Ghana in 1990, we moved permanently. All that we couldn't give away, we threw away. All that we couldn't throw away, we had sold what we could sell, gave away, threw away, packed up our bags, didn't take no furniture, nothing, just books and pieces of my museum, and we moved. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, I want to take you to my village. I said, okay, cool. I've never been to this village. I had no idea where this village was. We get to this village, people are like, hey, mama, you're back. Oh, he's like, they know you. And I said, yeah, this is the village that I came to in 1987. There was Matthew and John. And he said, but Matthew and John, well, they're my Safo company. And there were some other brothers. He said, this is the Safo company. They're like, that's your husband? I said, yes, that's my husband. Then he said, okay, baby, I'm going to take you to the land that they gave me when they made me a chief. And it is the exact same land that I stood on and asked for. I mean, they didn't measure, they did like this. From here to here, over there, to this side, and over here is for you. Just like that. Exactly like that. And then I thought about it from the standpoint that I had also made a commitment now. I mean, you don't say you're going to do something and you don't do it. I ain't trying to get no beating from on high. All right? So we moved. So that was the gift, that was the reaffirmation for me, for us, that the decision to come forward was the right decision. And that I would be the one standing at the door of no return to help brothers and sisters to come through. I do something called repatriation counseling, pre-patriation counseling, which is preparation to repatriate. And people that have come into my life, like Denise, somebody told them about One Africa, and her and her king man was standing on the veranda. The brother kept saying, well, I want to go to One Africa. Where's One Africa? And the guy said, don't worry. The tour operator, don't worry, you see. He said, well, I don't want to stay in this room. I want to go on that side where you can see the ocean. So they put him in another room. When he got out on the porch, he said, I see the colors of Rastafari, because my brother was a Rastafari. So around the crown of our house, we fly the flag. And sure enough, I met Denise and her kingdom. And that's how I met Ajua. And that's how I meet a lot of people, okay? And the thing is for One Africa, is to keep the doors open, so that people will know it's to say that is possible to do this. The culture is somewhat different. We don't shake with our left hand. We don't wave with our left hand. You know, this in America means bye-bye. Here it means come here. So you know, you go like this, and people come up to you. I said, no, I didn't call you. Said, yes, you did. You did like this. And I said, no, well, you do like this. This is bye-bye. This means come here. Okay? We talked about how heavy the traffic was. Well, every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all over the country, funerals are going on. Everybody's having a funeral. The only ones that have funerals other than Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are fishermen. They have them on Tuesday because on Tuesday it's taboo to go out to sea. So they bury their dead on Tuesday. You will see people dressed in red and black, brown and black, black on black, brown on black funeral. And folks here will go to 8 or 9 funerals in a day. I went to my friend's house one day, they were like, oh God, I'm just so tired. I said, well, yeah, what you gonna do all day? Well, we went to the funeral this morning at 9, one at 11, one at 12. People go to funerals and they don't even know the dead. They don't know them, they go in their bags so they can get food. Okay? You die today, you'll be on ice for a year, depending on your station. And the family got to get together and finish building up the house, and putting in the road and all the rest of it. They don't do that when you're alive, but after you're dead. But they don't want people to think that they didn't take care of you. Okay? I mean, I was standing on the road one day, and I had on a fine dress. I was fine. Had a beautiful red and black dress. And one thing about Ghanaians, and I love Ghanaians, they don't mind asking you. They don't mind getting into business, okay? Very innocently. You'll say, oh, where you going? Or what you doing? And what's that? So I'm standing there, sure enough, somebody come to the village and say, oh, madame, where will you go? I'm like, what, you writing a book? I said, whoa, you are looking like this. I said, well, I'm going to my friend's party. And they said, is she dead? I'm like, no, she ain't dead. I said, oh, but madam, you are wearing red and black. If you go to her party like that, she is going to think not good of you at all. So I think maybe you want to change that. So I had to go home and change my fabulous dress. I did get to wear it to one funeral. But I don't do funerals, I'm sorry. I don't, okay. And you know, my people always tell me, hey, madam, if you don't go to the funeral, when you die, no one is going to come. I said, do I know? All right? What do I know? Okay, I don't know. I don't care. All that you want to do for me, can you do it for me while I'm alive? I want it while I can smell the roses. Don't bring me no daggone flowers after I'm gone. When my husband transitioned, unfortunately, he was killed by a hit-and-run driver in Accra. And 2 weeks before, he had said to me, let me tell you one thing, baby. If I go before you, I don't want no great big funeral. Don't be, you know, rolling out the carpet and doing all that stuff. I want you to dig a hole in my yard, wrap me in a white sheet, and throw my ass in. Done. Finished. I said, okay. That's what he told me to do. And that's what I did. So when the people came, it was, oh, nah, he's not there. I said, no, he's not there. He's gone. So, where's the man? We go to hospital, he's not there. We come here, he's not there. I said, he's in the ground. 24 hours after he died. Between 24 and 48 hours, based on he was gone. I said, he's over there. Over there. Then I see the man. I said, he's in the ground. Hey, my God. You didn't do well, oh. I said, okay, not a problem. I didn't do well, oh. So, you know, customs and traditions, things that they do here, are a little bit different than we do in America. It's like if I walked up to this brother and said, are you crazy? Just like you're smiling. Either that or you're pissed off and you're going to slap me. But here, if you walk into a Ghanaian and say, are you crazy? what? They won't speak to you no more in this life or the next. Because by saying to someone, are you crazy? You are saying that there's insanity in their family. And that's a terrible insult. So I don't ask Ghanaians, are they crazy? I say, am I crazy? Do I look like a crazy person to you? Okay? You can't get mad at me for calling myself mad. So, you know, there's so many different things. It's the way that you dress, and we just had this conversation today, okay? I don't mind telling people how old I am, okay? Because I'm very happy that the Creator has blessed me to stand on these size 11s.
Yes.
They got to be size 11s from living in Africa. It used to be a 9. But I haven't had a pair of shoes on in 26 years, okay? Clothes and shoes, I wear, when I go to that side, I wear socks with toes, so I can wear slippers. So sure enough, I've been standing on these feet, these size 11s, for the past 74 years. And my plan is to stand for 149 years. See, but when I got my property, I was 50. And I hear my brothers saying how we buy. But if you are not a citizen according to the law, I follow the law as much as possible, okay? I don't want nobody to come and escort me out because I violated the law, okay? The law says that I cannot buy or freehold property because I'm not a citizen, but I can leasehold. And at one time, my leasehold was for 99 years. So if I got it at age 50, that meant I'd be 149 when my lease is up. So I'm trying to outlive my lease, at least as close as I can get to that as possible, okay? So we as, and I prefer to call us non-Ghanaians. It pisses me off when somebody tells me that I'm a foreigner. How can I be a foreigner in the land of my ancestors? When somebody says, oh, but you're not an African. I can prove that I'm an African, okay? Now, if you had a coconut tree or an almond tree, and the nut fell to the ground, and the tree grew, now would that be an almond tree or a coconut tree? What would it be? If I planted an almond, it would be a coconut tree. Oh, okay.
Never fail, that's what it would be.
Okay. It's an almond tree. So if they took our ancestors out of those slave forts and dungeons, in the loins of our ancestors, we were there. So if they took us to America or wherever the hell they took us, when did I become an American? Honestly, am I still not an African? I'm an African who was born in America. She's an African who was born in Jamaica. She's not a Jamaican. She's still an African. And it's a far sight better than the names that they gave us in America, niggers, coons, jigaboos, and whatever else they wanted to call us. Okay? So we are Africans. And we have to, in talking to my brothers and sisters here in Ghana,